first of all, thank you very much for showing up, for coming. Without you, that event wouldn't happen, and basically the idea behind this event is basically for you to give you a platform to network, to exchange ideas, to hear about something new. Probably maybe you haven't heard about it before, or there's something you want to share. That would be the place to be. I'm representing JLabs. Some of you guys already know me. If not, I'm Rafał. I'm in charge of new business in this part of the world. And basically, I'm just going to give you 2 sentences what our company is doing. We don't have any product allocation here. We basically a custom software house located in Poland, and we help German enterprise and mid-sized companies deliver software solutions. We don't have any products. That means we basically build things from scratch. And also, before the event kicks off, it's good to mention why we're organizing it. So, as I said, we're not basically selling anything you hear, but of course we have a goal in mind. So, apart from the things I mentioned in the beginning, that's the platform for you, we want to increase the awareness, we want to basically have exposure on the local market. We want to be heard in the local community. We know it's going to take time. We're going to have around 30, hopefully maybe 50 people who's going to come later here. And it's our second event already. We had the first one in November. And hopefully there will be more to come. We're planning another one on June 19th. So already booked the date. And that's it. And the question is whether you have any questions before we start with the main event. I'll take it as a no. So, we have Tristan today. Tristan is a person of many hats, and I think within the AI world, when you talk about the experts in the field, which is already starting and is kicking off, he's been already here for a while, a lecturer, founder, educator, manager. Anything else I should add, Tristan?
Oh, fine.
All right, I'll just give you basically a clap of hands, please, and Tristan is going to present the main topic of today, and he's going to tell you basically why he's doing what he's doing, okay?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
I only want to have my microphone recorded here. Just give me a second, because I think there's something opened here that shouldn't be opening. So, perfect. So, yeah, very nice. Very happy to be here. I will tell a little bit about myself. I used to be AI lead building up one of the largest AI startup incubators in Europe for the Lidl family, and also I used to be an AI strategist. Now I'm mainly a lecturer at the Technical University of Munich and working as a consultant with various clients from governments to the military and so on. And the funny thing is that I'm actually here because this is more a developer conference, and I'm actually not a developer and I don't even code. My background is economics and philosophy, but I call myself always a storyteller. And when I like to talk about artificial intelligence, I would like to start always at the beginning and ask myself, actually, where are we coming from and where are we going? And this leads me to the question, what makes us special as human species? And there are a lot of things that kind of like distinguish us from other nations, from other animals. It's not the ability to kind of like use tools. Other animals can also use tools, but it's our ability to make and develop those tools. And the making and development of tools is what we call technology. And if we look at our very short human history, we see that most of the technologies that we have developed always have aided to augment mainly our physical capabilities. So think about, for instance, of the blow that completely changed how we kind of like live together, or the printing press, or for instance the car that changed how we can go from A to B. And only very, very recently, so less than 100 years ago, we have for the first time the ability not only to augment our physical capabilities, but also our cognitive capabilities with the advent of computers. And obviously artificial intelligence. So the nice thing is, that artificial intelligence is not really something new. We talk about AI since the 1950s, 56, when this group of young white men came together and thought they could kind of like automate or hard code the way how we're learning and how we're thinking. And they had to realize it's actually not that easy, and it needed a couple of years for them to really have a breakthrough. And for me, one of the first breakthroughs that we have seen was in 1997 when IBM developed the first algorithm that was able to beat the world reigning champion in chess. Now you have to think about chess is relatively easy for a computer to solve because you have kind of like your pawns that move in a fixed ways, so you have limited options and it's easy to calculate what is the best move. There are a lot of games where this is not so easy, and I have brought one. Who of you has heard of this game? Go. What makes it so special?
Too many opportunities.
Yes, so basically, for the people who don't know, it's very similar to chess. It's revered as a high art in Asia, not very famous here in Europe. You have two players, and they have black and white, and your goal is to capture as much space as possible. The only thing is you don't really have so many rules, and you can place the stones on each of the intersections. That means you have more possible states as there are atoms in the universe, so it is kind of like impossible to use brute force to calculate what would be the best move, and we always thought we needed something like human intuition. And only 19 years later, there was a company that got acquired by Google, DeepMind, that was able to beat the world reigning champion in chess. And I just want to show, I'm quite sure that a couple of you have seen this, and have seen the documentary. For those who haven't, I want to show you because this is, for me, really marks the era where we start kind of like having the era of artificial intelligence. I want to show you a little snippet out of the documentary of the second game. The move 37 is the first time that people said that a computer showed something like creativity. And I want to give you the joy of this.
Little go to smoke, and AlphaGo just to play. It don't think about the openness will be there or not. So Ajab sees AlphaGo plays the move 37, and Ajab puts the stone in the board.
와, 정말 생각지도 못해.
The value of that.
That's a very surprising.
I thought it was a mistake.
You can still hear, right?
For me, it's just a big shock. What? Normally, human will never play this one because it's bad. It's just bad. We don't know why. It's bad.
But it's a little bit high.
Yeah.
It's fifth line. Normally, you don't make a short up here on the fifth line.
So coming on top of a fourth line stone is really unusual.
Yeah, that's an exciting move. I think we've seen an original move here. That's the kind of move that you play Go for.
Hey.
Interesting stuff.
This fifth line shoulder hit.
I wasn't expecting that. I don't really know if it's a good or bad move at this point.
The professional commentators almost unanimously said that not a single human player would have chosen move 37. So I actually had to poke around in AlphaGo to see what AlphaGo thought. And AlphaGo actually agreed with that assessment. AlphaGo said there was a 1 in 10,000 probability that move 37 would have been played by a human player. So it knew that this was an extremely unlikely move. It went beyond its human guide, and it came up with something new and creative and different.
Okay, so it's a bit. So, and I think this shows very nicely. So one thing is this move 37 was the game deciding move on which everything built up, and I think it shows very nicely how our belief what humans and machine can do is changing constantly. And especially now, something is very true when we say AI is the new electricity, and just as electricity 100 years ago changed basically every industry, we are going to seeing the same with artificial intelligence, or we're already seeing it. We just have to look at the last shareholder meeting of Google, and there was only one topic.
AI, generative AI, generative AI, generative AI, AI is AI, AI. It uses AI to bring AI.
And I mean, You can also see it. So I told you that I teach a course at the Technical University of Munich, and you can really see kind of like the impact ChatGPT had on the students coming. And I hope it was not only the impact of ChatGPT, but maybe also myself. So that was before we had 40 students, and now it's one of the biggest lectures that we have at the university with over 1,000 students attending the course in AI for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, where I actually talk about not how to build artificial intelligence, but actually how to manage artificial intelligence. And this is a little bit what I want to do today, to talk a little bit about you kind of like, I mean, I know there are a lot of experts here, but so something that I hear quite often, that people are disappointed with kind of like that only machine learning or losing cutting edge AI is AI. So I want to talk a little bit about machine learning and is AI the same as machine learning. I want to talk a bit about the benefits of artificial intelligence and how AI can actually empower your organization. And then let's see if I have some time left, we can talk about what is actually a good AI use case or what makes up a use case in general. So because I don't like to read all the time or talk all the time, I want to hear also from you where you're standing and what is your expertise with artificial intelligence. So maybe you get completely bored because you have heard everything that I've already saying, or not. So maybe please take out your phones. Okay, so I want to know, how would you rate your AI know-how? Ooh, a lot of people have been here. I thought we were going to be more advanced, so I brought kind of more advanced stuff, but that's good to know. Well, so I want to talk now, how does machine learning work, and is AI the same as machine learning? And I brought an example to make it just easier. So how AI works, or very easily, very simplified, is we have an input and then we have AI in the middle, and that does the processing, and we have an output. And I want to give you an example when we're talking about machine learning, how this is working. So think about what we want to do is basically we want to teach an algorithm that is able to kind of like be able to read the handwritten numbers. So this would be something very useful if we are, for instance, in a postal office, because we don't want to sort all the emails that are incoming by hand, but we want to have something that does this automatically and kind of like uses the zip code. So what we're doing in order to do this is not normally how we normally traditionally code, is kind of like hard coding everything and putting out the rules, because we see, well, what are the rules that makes a 1 a 1 and a 7 a 7? They look kind of different. So what we're doing in machine learning is we don't write down hard code the rules, but we let the machine figure out for itself what is the best solution. And we do this by feeding in a lot of data. We call this training data. So for instance, we have these circles, so we don't say, well, if something is very round, then this is a 0, but we give it a lot of examples and say, well, all of these circles correspond to a 0, all of these lines correspond to a 1, all of these 2 correspond to all of these things correspond to a 2, and so on. And then what this algorithm does is we don't hard code kind of like the information what it has to go. It finds for itself, based on the input, based on the training data, what are the underlying rules that makes a 1 a 1 and a 2 a 2. And then it can use this information to see a number or a letter that it hasn't seen ever before, and based on the rules it has learned on the training data, it then figured out, is this thing that I'm seeing, is it actually a 7 or a 1? In our instance, what we're seeing, this is a 7. And one thing that we hear quite often when we compare this to the traditional way how we're actually programming is people are getting very disappointed, because when they think about AI, they think about the most cutting edge things, machine learning, and then if they lift up the hood, what they're seeing is something kind of like traditional things. And we have seen a lot of startups that try to kind of like come off with their having cutting edge AI when it's instead simple programming. And I think this disappointment is not kind of like unfounded, and I want to kind of like ask you a question. Do you think that this calculator is actually an example of artificial intelligence or machine learning? Machine learning, of artificial intelligence. Who believes that this kind of thing, we could say a calculator is AI? Who doesn't believe that this is AI? Most of you don't believe that it's artificial intelligence. What is quite interesting is if we look kind of like at the first connotation or kind of like the first definition of artificial intelligence, then it would be, okay, if a computer or machine takes over a task that if it would be done by a human and it requires intelligence, then we call this artificial intelligence. So I ask you again, do you think what you're seeing here in the calculator we can call artificial intelligence or not? A couple of you saying yes. And the reason why we're often so confused about this is, so if we look at kind of like the very first description of kind of like the very first calculator that we saw in 1857, it says, well, we have something, a machine that seems to think, reflect, and reason better than all calculators, and back then calculators were human. And what we have nowadays is something what we call the AI effect. So if we have a technology that kind of like is at the beginning cutting edge, then we often call it AI, and then when it becomes commonplace, so part of our common life, as we see with calculators, because we have using calculators for ages, we don't call it artificial intelligence anymore, but we would say, well, this is plain technology we see so often. So, and I see it quite often in organizations, and I go quite often into organizations, they ask, can we have one definition of what actually artificial intelligence is, because we're fighting a lot. And I say, well, it's not so easy because of the AI effect. And what I don't like to talk about so much is the definition, but actually I want to talk about what really, really matters. And what really, really matters is something else. It's actually kind of like the definition of how do I get value. And yeah, by the way, so the traditional programming back then, when we started to do artificial intelligence, the way how we traditionally programmed, rule-based programming, was the only way how we did AI. So this was kind of like AI, and as the field progressed, we did more and more AI. So, but I don't care so much about the definition. What I always care about is one thing, and here the founder of Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, puts it together very nicely, what we should really care about.
It wasn't the underlying model that mattered, it was the usability of it.
So what we always have to think about, what really, really matters is actually the use we can get out of artificial intelligence. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if what we're using is AI, magic, or fairy dust. It really matters about the value we can create with the solutions that we're building for an organization. So let's look at the next part. What are the benefits of artificial intelligence that we can see for organizations? And here again, I want to ask you, what do you think? Evolution. That's the one. I haven't heard that so far. Efficiency, saving time, productivity, decision making, agile management, making us lazy, great benefit. If this is what you care for, speed, efficiency. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of AI. And when we're talking about machine learning, what nowadays most people equate to artificial intelligence, it goes a little bit like this, right? So we have data coming in, we have AI, and then we have a prediction. So the prediction would be, do we have, for instance, the number 7 or the number 1 that we're seeing? And I ask you, what is the value of this? What is the value of an algorithm, something like we have seen before, machine learning algorithm, that tells us that we have a handwritten letter that's a 7 or 1?
Eliminating of human errors, for example.
Well, yes, later on, but I tell you, this algorithm doesn't have any value at all as long as we're not able to connect it to any actions that is going to be triggered. So we need to trigger some actions, and for instance, if you see kind of like the example that we have seen at the beginning, an action could be putting this AI into a machine that is now based on the numbers, is able to sort kind of like letters that are coming in. And this is how this would look like. And you see that actually the AI part, there's somewhere a small camera that reads the thing, is the smallest piece of the whole machine. And here you kind of like see how it's sorted. It looks very nice. But you see how small the AI part is of the whole project. And only if we trigger actions, and this action would be sorting emails, we have a value in saving time or doing things that no person wants to do because there are just too many emails that are coming in. Sorry, not emails, but emails. So when we're talking about the benefits of AI, I see mainly kind of like 4 big benefits. And the first one is improved decision making. And don't underestimate the power of decision making, because it's probably one of the most important things. Because if you ask yourself where you're going to stand in the future, there are only 2 things that are going to determine where you're going to stand. And the first thing is luck or brute luck. And the second is the quality of the decisions that you make. So if we look kind of like at different decisions that we can make, so we have from descriptive, what happened, to kind of like why did something happen, predictive, what will happen, or what should be done. And you can think about how this is used, for instance, in the production to understand, well, was there a mistake in the production? What should I do next? Should I maybe repair the machinery? But as I told you, I brought an example where I've been working quite a bit with the military, and the military is using the capability of AI to make some inference on the battlefield, even right now as we're speaking, in the Ukraine war. I want to show you kind of like how they're using...
We start with a military operator responsible for...
So this is an example from Palantir that helps them automatically to detect if there's any action on the battlefield.
30 kilometers from friendly forces. AIP leverages large language models to allow operators to quickly ask questions. Show me more details.
And it gives you better insight in what is actually happening.
And leverage AI to build out a likely unit formation. What enemy military unit is in the region?
So based on this information I'm getting from artificial intelligence, I can help me now to make better decisions.
Of the potential enemy equipment on the ground.
So in here, it actually even has automated kind of like what should be done. We're sending out a drone to get a better image of the whole situation.
AIP surfaces the option to deploy a nearby drone to collect video. Task the MQ-9 to capture video of this location.
And then this is automated, and you get better information in the battlefield.
An enemy T-80 main battle tank.
That you again can use to make better decisions.
Generate 3 courses of action to target this enemy equipment.
And in this example, it suggests even 3 things that you can do or should do.
Courses of action to target this enemy equipment. Next, they use a...
So the second one, what we see quite often is it helps us to reduce the cost of doing business. And the best example for this would be ChatGPT. You can see, so there has been a treatment group and a test group. A treatment group and a test group. So for the same task, some people were allowed to use ChatGPT. And you can see how it has been it has been increasing in time they took for the task, but also increasing in quality. Or another example, so I used to work at some point at an AI startup in radiology, and what we did is kind of like help to find anomalies in CT scans. And by doing that, we help to speed up the time a radiologist takes to kind of like diagnose a disease and also reduce the errors that we have. So this is just kind of like 2 examples. Then what we have is personalization, and I think a good example for this is probably Netflix, because you know, everyone knows that every Netflix account looks slightly different from the recommendations that you're seeing. But very few people know that also the first image, what you call the thumbnail, is completely different, because it's one of the most important things for you to decide if you want to watch a movie or not. So based on your past, right, they have kind of like different thumbnails you can see. And based on your past behavior, they can decide what is the best thumbnail for you to show. So if you like something like rom-coms, what you're going to see as a thumbnail is then a couple kissing. And if you like more comedies, what you're going to see now is a comedian on the thumbnail. Or if you've been into Uma Thurman, because you watched a lot of Uma Thurman, then the thumbnail is going to be looking completely different for Pulp Fiction versus you're a fan of John Travolta. And then the last thing is, it allows you to capture and create new value to do things that you were not able to do before. And this could be either, if you look at your products, it can help you to enhance your existing products, right? Or you can now do things that you were not able to do before. Again, I brought like a small example. This is something I gave my mom for Christmas as a birthday. So here you had something that was very classic, kind of like a birdhouse with a camera, and when the bird was coming, it automatically took like a small video. And now, since this year, you have a new feature that is using AI, and you pay like $20 more for this feature, and it tells you actually also what kind of bird it is that you are seeing. So the question then is, well, how does then, if you look at all this benefit, how does the AI organization of the future look like? And this is a question for you again. Because I want to know, where's your organization in their own AI journey? What?
For starter, there is a typo error in your...
Yeah. Not started. So how to think about artificial intelligence in your organization when it comes to applying AI? And what is very interesting is we have seen something like a paradox when it comes to applying AI. On the one hand side, we have very big expectations what you can do with artificial intelligence. And if we look at the organizations and take open the hood, we say something very similar. Most haven't even started, or very few that actually start and say that are doing artificial intelligence are actually talking about a positive return on investment. And I think this creates kind of like this bad news gulf of inflated expectations. And the reason for this is exactly what we have said. Because what you see all the time in research, or what you see in the news, is all the time that you think that you get in research. You see, okay, well, AI is now able to predict what is happening in CT scans. But the problem is, if you want to put it into action and if you want to bring it into companies, it gets more and more difficult. And the reason for this is, well, because they have to act with the humans, you have to build good products, and well, in practice, it often looks quite different than in the lab. And this is what we kind of like seeing quite often. So the potential is massive if you think about what we can do. And the idea is that we can come closer and closer to zero operational cost, and that it takes less and less people, and this is something, a trend we have seen in general over the last years, to actually produce more and more value when we're talking about kind of like creating shareholder value or even revenues. And if you think this way through, what is then going to happen with artificial intelligence? And it's very interesting. I'm not sure, there was last month, and the sound of this is not too good. There was an interview with, again, with Sam Altman, and this is basically what he said.
We're going to see 10-person billion-dollar companies pretty soon, like billion-dollar valuations. And the thing that in my little group chat with my tech CEO friends, there's this betting pool for the first year that there's a one-person billion-dollar company, which would have been unimaginable without AI, and now will happen.
So that means, well, how do you have to think about AI when it comes to your own organization? And how can you apply it? And there are two ways where you can put it in AI. First of all, your offerings or your processes. And if you put it in your offerings, it can help you to increase your revenue, because you can now make the product more attractive, maybe reach new customers or build something new and have a completely new market, or charge a higher price. This is the example we have seen of the birdhouse. Well, or you can put it in your processes and now suddenly save a lot of costs or make things just more attractive. Think about the smart factory of Tesla, right? So if I go with BMW and want to get my new car, I have to wait 2 years. In the smart factory of Tesla, where everything is automated, I have to wait just kind of like for, I think, 2 months or 3 months. A lot of people, this is the reason why a lot of people choose Tesla, because it's just much faster. Because they have been using artificial intelligence to automate a lot of processes, and this can also increase the quality that you're actually getting. So how to think about it? So we have our offerings, our products and service, and we can use AI to enhance existing products or services, or create completely new products or services, as we have seen before. But I think the interesting part, so when I work with a lot of organizations, is not so much about what can I do with AI to make existing products better, but also most of the time is thinking about the processes. And when I think about processes and work with organizations, there are 3 kinds of processes I'm looking at. So I'm looking at the universal processes, so that these are the processes everyone has to do. So for instance, writing emails, scheduling appointments, and so on. And there's the industry and function-specific processes. So this could be HR. It's very similar, standardized. So when I do HR in one company and then go to the next one, it's kind of like similar processes. Or in an industry. So if I'm, for instance, in education, one school works very similar to another school. Or in healthcare, if I'm in a hospital, the processes there are actually quite standardized. And then I have also processes that are very unique for my organization that maybe only I have. And when it comes to kind of like thinking about where do I want to do AI and where it makes sense to build and partner with other companies to build products, something like this we can see. So the more we move from here, we have very general, a lot of people do this, to here, to unique to the organization, something happens. Here the market is massively big, so here you often can find something already on the market. So think about ChatGPT or something like Calendly. That is something a lot of people use and have used because a lot of people have to do this. And here it probably doesn't really make sense for you to build your own ChatGPT, maybe to customize it. And then you have also in other kind of like domains, if you kind of like HR and so on, you have a lot of solutions off the market that you can take and customize. But if it comes to kind of like having your own very unique processes, it becomes much harder because the market is not as big, and there it makes sense for you to actually partner or build something on your own, right? And maybe take something that you need to customize. So looking at the time a little bit, I think we have, I have 1 minute left to talk, so we're not able to make it to the bonus, but I also have a nice end. So when you want to think about artificial intelligence, I always like to compare it to what we have seen if you want to use a computer in the 60s and 70s. So in the 60s and 70s, if you wanted to use a computer, you needed to have your own AI experts, and you needed to build, sorry, not AI experts, but computer experts that were able to build their own computer and also to run their own computer for your organizations. And nowadays, right, even a baker or my hairdresser is using a computer and has no idea how to use the computer, but still is able to run the business. And we're gonna see something very similar and see it also very similar, that you need to have less and less insight and experience if you want to do AI, and it really depends also on the size of your company. And there's a lot of things already available in the market, and you really have to understand where does it make sense. So where is the greatest business value for you to build something on your own or to partner with something that can help you build something on your own, and where it makes more sense to maybe find a startup and work with a startup or find a solution that you can take off the market. So yeah, was very happy to be here, very happy to connect, quite active on Facebook, and if you're interested in AI, just connect, and always happy to shoot kind of like if you shoot me in a message or something, and I try to respond. And I wish you a great networking evening, and yeah, looking forward to see the speakers coming after me, what they have to say.
Thank you, Tristan. Now you really make me think, what's the bonus? But it's too late. Because you said you won't make it to the bonus because you're running out of time.
Yeah.
Still like hanging. Guys, any questions to Tristan?
What's the bonus?
You see, I'm not the only one.
I would have a question.
Yeah.
You are?
No, sorry. So I would call it a company and business agnostic AI innovation we are seeing right now. So you write faster emails, you do better marketing, blah, blah, blah. So every company will do the same shit. And the value, which is organically or intrinsic to the company, is exactly the part where you mean, for that, we require most of the work, most of the customization. When do you think this company agnostic part is almost already a commodity because everyone does it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So when is the company part getting more agnostic? I think so what I like to say is kind of like how I like to think it. It's actually more similar to the adoption of the. How I like to think it. It's actually more similar to the adoption of the computer than we think. People, for them, AI is new and they haven't seen it before, right? So back then, if you were kind of like using a computer and it was new for you, you had to learn it, and you also now have to have the skills like the computer, and then you have customized software, something like, sorry, not customized, you have standardized software, something that like Excel that you have, and then you sometimes, as an organization, you understand, well, Excel is not enough for myself, and I need to build something just for myself, or need to put it in a nicer user interface, right? And I always like to kind of like, it's very similar to what we see. And I think it's very interesting because exactly as you said, it's becoming more and more commodity, because now also all the organizations are thinking about, well, how can we put AI in our product to improve kind of like our product? So, and if you now have, if you have the Microsoft suite, you see kind of like almost automatically how you have AI features integrated into it. So I think this kind of like, if you look at this kind of like more general part that we have been talking about, and this general functionality, it's just kind of like AI becomes more integrated, and the big advantage of this large language model or the Gen AI, it becomes much more intuitive to use, because we can use it using our own language. We don't have to learn a specific programming language as we had to do, for instance, even for Excel, you know, that like the formulas that you had to learn, but now you can kind of like use your own language. So it becomes easier to use and much more of a commodity. And therefore, this decision to make where it really adds a value and where are your own processes where you don't find a solution out there is becoming more and more important, and finding a good partner there. I hope this somehow answered your question.
Yeah, it does. So for you, the more company agnostic part, the one stuff everyone can apply, is a way to the company specific part where the core business, the core data can create value.
Yeah.
Because it's socializing it. So
yeah, and also you have to think about it. We talked about machine learning, right? And that you need to have data, and this can be also become your unique selling point. And this is why this data is becoming more and more important. It's not so hard anymore to build the models. It's becoming more and easier, because the models, especially the models, become a commodity that you can now use. But something that is actually hard to copy for others is actually the data that you generate. So in the world of AI, what is becoming more and more important is the data that you have, and therefore you also need to have a good data management in place.
Thank you. And I'm glad that the conversation shifted to data. And first of all, round of applause again. Thank you, Tristan. And as I said, now we're shifting to data. We have a person passionate about data from early days. Started as a developer, climbed through different sectors like fintech, banks, e-commerce.
What do you need?
And now being a tech lead at a local company, Up. I don't know if you recognize Etoma. You don't mind if I'm gonna basically do some product placement? I don't know how familiar are you guys with the bottles, the scent flavored water. That's what the Up is doing on the wave of sustainability, being healthy, green, and the role of Etoma, the company, as far as I understood, is basically understanding where the flow of customers is coming from, where the delivery is coming from, which channels they're using. Anything else I missed?
I think you're a better marketer than me.
Right, so please, a round of applause, and the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Do you hear me clearly? Yeah. Alright, so I'm Etoma Egot. I'm Nigerian. I've worked and lived in Munich in the last 6.5 years. I've worked at 2 companies since moving to Germany. First was Wirecard, where I worked as team lead business intelligence before the company crashed in 2020. I guess most of you know the story of Wirecard. It's all over the internet. However, what didn't crash were my beautiful memories working there, the network of people that I met, and of course the knowledge and expertise that I gained while I was there. Essentially, my data career started off at Wirecard. Second is Egot, where I currently lead the analytics function. I worked as head of data for nearly 3 years. During this period, I developed the data team from scratch, developed the global data infrastructure for analytics at scale, played a key role in the global expansion of Egot to new markets, and more recently pioneered the transition of Egot to self-service BI, which is the core of my talk with you tonight. Permit me to acknowledge the presence of a former colleague who is currently here. Abhishek, if you don't mind, if you can stand up for a minute. So Abhishek. All right, so Abhishek, thanks for coming. So Abhishek used to be a senior data scientist in the data team and a highly valued member, highly valued contributor in our team. Someone I'm also proud to have worked with at Wirecard and also at Arup. And someone I also highly recommend when it comes to data science and everything advanced analytics. So Abhishek, unfortunately, is no longer with Arup, as at a couple of weeks ago. So yeah. Now, for those of you who don't know Arup, so Arup was founded in 2019 as a D2C company within the food and beverage industry. We offer a range of specially designed water bottles and a variety of flavor pods. Our main mission is to revolutionize the way you drink water by making it more enjoyable for you without the need for sugars, additives, or sweeteners. We do this by leveraging the science of retronasal olfaction, as you can see, on this diagram here on your screen. If you'd like to know more about Arup, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen. So today, I'd like to share with you some findings from our journey to self-service BI, and also frame a discussion around why you should embrace self-service BI to not only democratize data in your organization, but also catalyze a culture of informed decision-making within your organization. Now, according to Gartner Analytics, within just 1 year, the global BI market surged from $27 billion to $29 billion. And this is projected to grow to nearly double that amount by 2030. This is not just growth. This is a revolution in the way we leverage and understand data. So why should you care about this insight? This tells you that companies are making significant investments in BI to enable a culture of better and more inclusive decision making and also improve their competitive advantage using data. So one fine afternoon during the lunch break of a manager's workshop, I got into a chat with the CEO of Arup. And during that conversation, he shared some frustrations with me regarding the BI tool we used some time ago. And also how he particularly disliked the idea of having to consult the analytics team every time for very basic analysis that he could do for himself. That conversation sparked some ideas in my mind that laid the foundation for our North Star goal, which is to drive analytics at scale and unlock the full potential of data democratization in your organization. You must transition to self-service BI. What path did we follow to get there? Trust me, it was not a straightforward path. There were a couple of twists and turns to get to our destination. We started with company-wide surveys to check how accessible data was to every employee in the organization. We analyzed the survey results and made some interesting findings, which I will share with you, and also formulated a couple of strategies to address those findings, and then went into design mode to design a solution architecture that will meet the requirements of the type of self-service BI we wanted. Of course, we didn't do it alone. We partnered with some external suppliers to get to our North Star. Eventually, we ran a couple of POCs and then rolled out the final solution. And I am proud to say we are in a very good place right now with self-service BI at Arup. So we started with 5 questions. Very easy questions. I have access to the data I need. Do you know who to turn to for data? Do you have the data you need to do your work? Do you know where to find data? Do you understand existing dashboards that are provided to you? The results were quite fascinating. Most people disagreed on where to find data and in the understanding of existing dashboards. Now, this was a direct challenge because, in fact, I would say a direct assault to what we do because potentially what we believe was our greater area of contribution to the organization was providing access to the data and also providing the dashboards or reporting needs for the business, right? And here you are, people saying they disagree with that. So we took a lot of interest in this and decided to zoom in further on these 2 areas. And then we made more discoveries. 80% of employees who had spent less than 6 months in the organization actually struggled with these two areas. And now, if employees who just joined the organization could not embrace existing data assets, right, and find the data they need to do their job, you can agree with me that they will most likely invent new ways of working, and also that's counterproductive to our goal of becoming a data-driven organization, let alone democratize data. While that was ongoing, we also saw a surge in BI requests. Tableau requests was growing, hitting the roof. As you can see on the top of the slope chart, we got a lot of requests from stakeholders. And you know the typical fashion, they raise this request and then they wait for you to come back with a feedback. Certainly we knew doing nothing was not an acceptable thing. So what did we do? We decided to look into the root cause, analyze the survey findings, and yes, we made also some interesting findings there. I classified them into 3 buckets. First was data anarchy, second, data aristocracy, and lastly, data bureaucracy. So data is spread across different systems, in different folders, in different formats, across different business domains. Most of it available in form of spreadsheets. And I can share an example. Our finance team was a big corporate here. They use a lot of spreadsheets to store their data. On top of that, they also use this very old accounting software called Dativ, D-A-T-I-V. Now, the challenge with this software is it's severely limited when it comes to API integration capabilities. So despite our readiness as a data team to integrate to this tool and extract the data to democratize it for the rest of the organization, we simply could not. So this led to different teams reporting different metrics, different numbers for the same metrics. And different teams could hardly agree on definitions. By design, we gathered data from different sources and stored them in a central cloud data warehouse, right? And we also have a central data team that provides access to the data and also reporting needs, as I earlier said, for the rest of the organization. But this also meant that every question people have was answered with a new dashboard. Unfortunately, data aristocracy often leads to data bureaucracy. So we also undo the phenomenon where people would oftentimes request new data sources to be added to the data warehouse. And we would often take up this project, try to integrate. One of our data engineers is also here, very familiar with this concept. And then spend a couple of weeks to months trying to integrate the data into the data warehouse. Now, depending on the complexity of that requirement or the data source to be integrated, this could typically take a longer time. And apart from that, the data team, which was, it's data team for a startup, was a small company. We were scaling, hiring more people. We were also becoming a bottleneck because every new employee comes in, they need data, they come to us. So this leads to a familiar concept called data breadline, where people make a request to the data team and basically have to wait until they get feedback from the data team. That was not all. Most of the dashboards that we created became trash boards because people looked at them once and never came back to them again. Okay, long story short, what did we do to solve the problem? So, knowing that we could achieve self-service BI at scale, what was more interesting for us was what type of self-service BI. So we had to model the type of self-service BI that we wanted, because self-service BI could mean different things to different people. For us, it means I need an answer to a question, rather than I need an answer to my question, which happens when people ask you for dashboards and do nothing but wait for you to provide a dashboard. We also envision self-service BI to mean more things. Get the data you need, prepare the data, visualize it, share the data. Shouldn't take a lot of time to do this versus this. You submit business requirements, you wait. For the data team, to give you feedback or to provide a dashboard. After which, probably the business purpose for requesting that dashboard must have become stale. And it's completely useless by the time you provide a dashboard to the user, right? And then the back and forth starts. The user sees the dashboard for the first time and says, oh, actually, this is not how I wanted the dashboard to look like. Can you add one filter there? Okay, can you add more visualization? But then you're telling this to the analyst, right? What if you can do that yourself? If we provide you the basic foundation to do these things yourself. And that process repeats, it goes on and on. So our own self-service BI approach should be something like this. We wanted it to be intuitive to users. We wanted it to be interactive, empowering, based on semantic oriented, discovery oriented, right? Collaborative, analytical, exploratory for the users. But not only that, we also considered other things. It should be reasonably priced. It should be cloud-based. It should be mobile-friendly. It should be AI-oriented, like Tristan talked about, right? No company does stuff today and you don't think of AI. Of course, part of our solution was definitely powering this with AI. It should be accessible. It should be also developer-friendly because if you want the analysts to embrace it, then it should be friendly to them. It cannot only be friendly to the users, but hard to manage by the teams that are going to manage that. So we went into a proof of concept with some of the top BI providers in the industry. I mean, these are some of the best because we spent a couple of months talking to some of these guys. And then we narrowed down our selection based on our very specific requirements to 2. Visio and ThoughtSpot. Can anyone guess who we went with eventually? If it's Team Visio, can I see your right hand up? Team ThoughtSpot? Okay. Some people decide not to vote. All right. I'm not going to charge you for voting or not. Eventually, we went with Visio. And this is what the results look like. So Visio dominated ThoughtSpot on all these 4 key attributes: accuracy, ease of use, usage likelihood, and speed. And something that is very particular about this survey is the inclusiveness. We got practically most of the entire organization involved in the process, right? We involved like more than a quarter of the organization in the process of this evaluation. So people had an opportunity to feel what the solution would look like, right? And eventually they felt like, okay, if I'm going to use something, I must be part of saying that's what I would like to use, right? So that's what we meant by usage likelihood. Are you likely to use this? Not like what happens today in many companies. We invest in solutions, people see it, looks flashy and shiny for the first few months, and then no one touches it again. So I would like to also share with you what our solution architecture was before we went to self-service BI and what it is now with self-service BI. So typical thing, people have need for questions. They come up with a question, and then they want to check an existing dashboard that answers that question. Take note, it's possible that a dashboard could have been built a year ago, and it's still out there for people to look at it. But then your question is for today, with the current business climate. So oftentimes than not, these dashboards don't adequately answer the needs of the user. So what do? They start talking to the analyst. I want the dashboard to look like this. It should look like that. I want specifically this type of metrics. And I want it computed like this. Okay, the analyst takes the request. We check the dashboard, we check Tableau. If it doesn't answer it, what do? We start building a new algorithm to pull that information for the business, right? We create the data models. We then deploy the dashboard. But something I want you to take note of here is the iteration again begins. They see the dashboard for the first time, the user sees it for the first time, and then, okay, this is not exactly, it's close. Can you add this? Can you add that? Perhaps the data team works in iterations, in sprints. They probably take back this requirement to the sprint again. Another 1 month, probably a couple of days lost again. The business is not moving fast enough. Users are not able to make decisions fast enough. They are waiting on the data team. And I mean, you cannot drive competitive advantage with this kind of process. It's not scalable. So welcome to the era of search analytics, which is all about AI, ChatGPT-like tool, Visu, really interesting, answers the what and also answers the why. What is peculiar about this is the fact that we want our users to focus more on generating dialogues than generating dashboards. Because dashboards, we know what they look like. They are static. Dashboards are good, but they are oftentimes incomplete. So we want people to generate dashboards. Think of the question. Start with questions. What do I want to do? Ask the questions against data and get the answer. Like what ChatGPT does for you, right? You have something, you need to get clarity. You ask a question, you get the answer right away. Why having to bring a human in the loop of that thought process, right? And then if you, based on the response you get, you might want to refine your answers, drill down further, and do more things. That can generate many questions that can put you in a position to really act fast and make decisions with data. Okay. The SQL is generated, it goes back, response comes back to the user in form of visualization. They're happy, they ask more questions. All this time, there's no human in the loop, just like what you do with ChatGPT. No human in the loop, just you and the AI. But of course, there are always times where you need to talk to human beings, you need to talk to analysts, right? Okay, maybe the data model there doesn't answer your question. Okay, the data sources existing, it doesn't answer the questions you have, and you need to add them. You need someone to put that in. So you talk to the analyst, they do the usual thing, but slightly different. The analysts are now maintaining a central layer, something we call semantic layer, a standardized, unified language layer, where everybody gets the same definition, irrespective of functions. Everybody thinks the same metrics, same formulas, not like one team creates a separate dashboard with formula A, another team creates another dashboard. Same metrics, AOV, meaning something different for another team, right? Could create a lot of confusion. This is where we try to centralize and create consistency. And of course, we still do the normal thing, right? We integrate the new data sources to our data warehouse. But something I would like you to note here compared to the last diagram is this. The iterations move away from between humans and analysts talking to more of the backend. And that can happen as many times as possible. And then human conversation will happen also, but there's a lot going on. So let's say 95% of the organization can be served by what we are providing on this layer. And if someone has specific requirements, we try to align your requirements with what the rest of the organization wants or what drives value for the company, not just for you specifically. So we also minimize and make sure we are utilizing our analytic resources the right way. All right, so does that mean dashboards are dead? No, they are not. Like I said, they are only incomplete. We want people to focus more on generating dialogues, asking questions out of data, than waiting for dashboards. Does that mean we also don't need analysts anymore? Maybe some of you thinking about this presentation, you want to fire some of the analysts you have. Certainly not. They are even more important now, right? We can't do without them. Does that mean self-service BI is the silver bullet? Certainly not. But it can be. If we do this. If you build a strong semantic layer, a standardized, unified metric layer that provides consistency in business logic and definitions. Of course, we need humans in the loop. We need a strong analytics team, skilled analytics team. The likes of Abhishek that we had in the team in the past. And they would be the ones maintaining the semantic layer. They will also create models that serve a larger group of people rather than models that serve a small group of people. We also need governance, proper data governance. And that's why analytics team is in the middle. They maintain a semantic layer, and we also need to govern where the data is coming from. That means we don't need a lot of silos, Excel sheets, We have data in a centralized place, well-governed, and it all makes sense because people don't make different definitions or compute this different metrics, get different answers for the same metrics, right? Because it's centrally governed. And finally, we run a more linear data warehouse processes. We don't have to do integrations that last for weeks, for months, right? We can also save a lot of time here as well because we can challenge. If you say you want us to build something, we first ask you, what value does it bring to the bottom line? How does it help the company? How does it help Europe? And if you are not able to answer these questions, then I guess you already know the answer. We'll probably not take the requests. And of course, it makes sense if what you're bringing is going to enhance the business. It becomes another data point we are having that everyone in the company can use. So I'll leave you with some recommendations, some learnings, some takeaways for you today. Start with questions. We started with a survey. I started by talking to the CEO of Europe during that manager's workshop. And he shared his frustrations, and that frustration led me to thinking more about what better solutions we could provide. Technical people, oftentimes, we sit behind our cubicle. We don't want to talk to people. We believe we are able to offer the solutions, but you need to talk to people. You need to go out there. You need to speak to humans, right? People that will use the solution. Many times, they will not complain. Many times, they are probably going to make you feel good by telling you, oh, it's fine. But until you speak to them, then they begin to tell you the real challenges that they face. And when you ask them questions in an anonymous surveys, people will definitely tell you what the problem really is for them. They probably won't tell you exactly how it is, like the CEO, who's brutally honest, will tell you. But many of your friends will probably tell you these things in form of a survey. Embrace self-service BI. Self-service BI, I cannot overemphasize it enough. Creating a uniform metric layer, consistency, and all of that. It's kind of eroded so many challenges that we faced back then. Avoid complex solutions. So many times we pride in building very complex solutions, but think of intuitiveness. How easy is it for the user to use those solutions? If users cannot easily make dashboards for themselves and always have to rely on you to do that, do you need your users to learn SQL? We don't want our users to learn SQL. We meet them at the level of their knowledge. Because we also tried other things like data literacy. We enrolled some data literacy programs. We found that only a subset of people in the organization embraced these things. A larger group of people were too busy to study or to learn these things, right? So we had to bring them to the level which they would adopt the solutions we provide them. Expand adoption, create surveys, talk to different people, and constantly improve. So finally, in conclusion, the future of data is in our hands. By embracing self-service BI, we not only democratize data, but also catalyze a culture of informed decision-making across all levels of the organization. Imagine a world where every user is empowered to harness the power of data to drive excellence and decisions in the organization. The path is clear. The tools are there. AI is here, like Tristan said. So the future is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Etoma. Thank you. I believe that most organizations could understand where you're at, and they probably struggle with similar stories. So let's leave the questions for later, for the networking session. And before I introduce our last speaker, I'd like to do something that's been very valuable for me during the conferences and events I attended. It's going to take 1 minute, and basically the exercise goes as follows. Find the person closest to you, not the person you came with, and not the person you already know, and say 2 things. Your name, and whatever comes to your mind that the other person should know about you. Work-related, personal-related, and basically the way we do it is like a quick warm-up introduction for the future networking that may or may not take place. So, come on guys, you don't have to move around. Yeah, just say hello. Introduce yourself.
Everything that we did this, yeah. Yeah. It's a good job. Yeah, so maybe I can go there.
Maybe I go talk to someone.
I'm not sure that I should use the microphone.
Co?
Nie wiem, czy powinien używać mikrofonu.
Ale masz ten mikrofon, więc...
Czy nie będzie tam słychać, nie? Wiesz, jak ja mówię. Ale zobaczymy, najwyżej. Dobra. A to takie do klikania? Jak to dał? Clicker. To było prywatne? Dobra, to nie, to jest ten. Nie, to ja sobie będę tutaj, wiesz, to mi nawet lepiej. Spoko, to, no. Bo ja nie wiedziałem, a to ja sobie stąd powiem. O, tak. Dobra, to ja sobie usiądę, jak mi zapowiesz, to tu przyjdę chyba, nie?
Dasz to tak jak jest?
To znaczy?
Czy mocno go wyciągnąć z rozmowy?
Nie, spoko, to dla mnie jest nawet lepiej. Choć mam notatki.
Ile dać im czasu?
Myślę, że już można pomału przechodzić.
Alright, thank you guys. I'm really glad it took off. Hi. Yeah, I'm the moderator. I'm gonna be basically a pain stopping you and making you quiet. It was me who started it, so I hate to basically put an end. But thank you. You exceeded my expectations. You really took it to the heart, and that was the goal. So thank you. And now, the last gentleman, our JLabs representative, Dominik, the previous Java developer who decided he wants to get out of the garage and meet people and be half of his work based with business and half of his work based with people managing, and of course I'm kidding, regarding the garage. He works in the attic. So Dominik is our delivery manager. It means he's in charge of the teams, working very closely with business internally, with guys like me, and with clients to make projects delivered smoothly. And on a private note, he's a father of a 4-year-old daughter, a fan of football, and he's been in IT for more than 12 years, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, Java, Kotlin, why is it worth it? A round of applause.
Thank you.
And the food is waiting for us, so here's the last one.
I try to be quick. Yeah, thank you, Rafał. You're doing the best. I'm not sure that I will handle the same thing, but I prepared, so I'll try. So let me introduce myself at the very beginning. So my name is Dominik Szponder. I'm delivery manager in the JLab software specialist. I have more than 12 years of experience. For 10 years I was a backend developer. And I had the occasion to write in Java, then in Kotlin. In the meantime, I was a team leader and a professional Scrum Master. And yeah, right now I'm delivery manager, and I'm glad that I can be here. And yeah, starting my presentation, I would like to make some assumption with you that considering the transformation to Kotlin, we'll do this in that way that we'll assume that we have our software written in Java and then we are trying to make transformation to Kotlin. And the question that we should ask ourselves is why we should do this. If we have working environment, we know the process, we have experts in the domain, why we should change our core and translate our application to Kotlin. And the second question is what for we should do this, what benefits it can bring us. And yeah, let's see. So the first area that I would like to touch with you is the fastening of our delivery time, which is I think crucial thing in IT sector. And to do this, let's compare this to really short codes. On the left side you can see the Java code, on the right side you can see the Kotlin code. And in general, this code do the same thing. So it's create a list, calculate the sum of elements of this list, and it's printing it on the console. And the first thing that you can see here is that the Kotlin code is much shorter than that one written in Java. I bet it's more than a half, I think. But analyzing this code a little bit deeper, yeah, I have it. A little bit deeper, we can see that the creating of the list in the Kotlin is more or less one-liner, because we can do this in one line, while in Java we need to use for this few lines. We can do this in the loop, or in some different style, but still it will be even more. Then we should try to think about this calculate sum function, which is in Kotlin it's one-liner, while in Java to summarize the numbers on the list we need to use for loop, we need to use for each loop, or even we can use streams, but still this is much longer than in Kotlin. And what we can see here at the very beginning is that in Java we can have here a null pointer exception when our list won't be initialized. Then in Kotlin we can do this because it's null safety, at least at the beginning. And the last thing that I should compare here is that the Kotlin is using string interpolation, which is more efficient. It's easier to read, easier to use than string concatenation in Java. And that short comparison brings us to the idea that our development is much more easier in Kotlin than in Java. It's easier to develop, it's easier to maintain our code, because if we need to produce less code, then we produce less bugs. So we maybe we won't have occasion to fix them. Sorry. What else? Our code is more efficient because we are using built-in functions, and they are really well optimized by the inventor of the Kotlin. While writing the same functionality in Java, we can do this in different styles, in different ways, and it's not working always as it should. And the last thing is that we will have less boilerplate code. Starting from that we don't need to use semicolon at the end of the lines, like in Java. We don't need, for example, to create getters and setters in our DTO objects, because it's made automatically by Kotlin. Then we will have less code. It will be better readable, and and if you are thinking, if you are wondering how much of the code less we can achieve, thanks to that, then I can tell you it's up to 40%. We can write even 40% less code in Kotlin than in Java, which is quite amazing for us. And it's the very beginning, because it was short comparison and it was really a simple example, but if we consider things like coroutines, multi-threading, if we think about functional programming, then Kotlin can give us even more. And thanks to that, it's really it can benefit us a lot. But let's have the code right now, and let's see another idea that I would like to present you. And the idea that should, at least at the very beginning, should be familiar with that of you that are fans of the Lord of the Rings Tolkien, because the idea that is saying that you have one tool to rule them all, but here we don't use the ring, we will use Kotlin, especially Kotlin multi-platform tool, which tool can allow us to write a cross-platform code to different platforms. We can write the server part in Kotlin, we can write the front-end part directly for web development, desktop development, Android and iOS, so we can write our code once and then share it in a different platforms. And we can do this in several ways, because we can share only a piece of the logic when the critical part of of our application is written in Kotlin, and the rest of the application is written natively. We can share the whole backend, so the whole functionality at the backend side can be written in Kotlin, then the UI part will be written in, I don't know, AngularJS, or for mobile in Swift, for example, for iOS. And the last one that I would like to show is shoring up to the 100% of the code, which brings us to the idea that we can share almost all the code that we can write in Kotlin in backend and for the UI part. And yeah, to do this to the UI part, we need to use another tool which is called Compose Multiplatform, which allows us to write reusable components. And I would like to present you how this works on a really simple example. So let's imagine that we have this button, we are creating a button that is logging into the console that it was pressed, and it's saying us hello platform, which is delivered by the tool. And writing this code once and using Compose Platform will achieve a result like this. So we will have 4 buttons in 4 different platforms with exactly the same behavior, with exactly the same look, more or less. And it really accelerates our development. This is a really simple example, but let's imagine that we have more complicated application when we need to write more code, which is harder to analyze, harder to understand, and then using this we need to do this only once. And yeah, here is the social narration that we will be reusable components, that it will speed up our development. And what's important in this part is that that we can use also our native components delivered by the platform. So we, because sometimes there are some things that we can't handle on the other way. And yeah, it's not only the idea, because right now it's used in the world, maybe more in the mobile world, because right now it's commonly used in the Kotlin in the mobile, yeah, by Kotlin multi-platform for mobile. And for example, McDonald's is using it, and I bet you had occasion to use application which implements this, because it's application to ordering the food. And this diagram shows you how they do that, how they implement the application. So they made the whole business layer, they write in Kotlin multi-platform for mobile. So the whole repository layer, the DB, the domain business, they write it only once, and right now they are sharing this for the front-end and back-end for the front-end application for iOS and for Android. And yeah, they are saying that it brings them a lot of benefit, yeah, because they do this once. It's faster, it's easier to maintain, and it's working as it should. And then the second example is from Netflix, which is using the multi-platform exactly in the same way, because they also implement the business layer in the Kotlin, and they are sharing this through the 2 different environments. And what was interesting, Netflix, I think, is considering the transition their front-end part of the application, the web application, to the Kotlin platform as well, by using Kotlin.js, because they know that it exists, that it's working quite good, and yeah, maybe in the future they will do this. And yeah, the last area that I would like to touch is really close to me and to the things that I do on my daily basis, because it touches people and their happiness, more or less. You know, I'm on my daily basis, I'm often discussing with developers I discuss with developers many things, and I'm asking them questions. One of these questions is, does writing code make you happy? And in general, the answer always is yes. It makes me happy, but if we dig a little bit deeper, then it could be like this, that yesterday it only made me cry 3 times. And yeah, and the reason is why they are saying things like this. So analyzing this, it's of course there could be many reasons, but the commonly used by them is that the application have a lot of tech debt, which they can't to avoid. They can't to rewrite it in other way because they don't have time. There is no need to do this, and they are really dissatisfied because of that. And the second thing is that they are using old technologies. So they are using our old Java, for example, and even if this is in the newer version, then it all the time is Java. It's old. It has some bad things implemented, and then can avoid this. And if you would like to change this, then we can make the transition to Kotlin to make their life simpler. And I had the occasion to do this, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Writing the code in the Kotlin is more efficient, so they are more happy. They are making more fancy things. That they are using functional programming, and thanks to that, they have occasion to increase their knowledge, to grow. They don't need to change their work. They are staying in the company longer than in other way. They don't even think about it, and that brings to us the idea that the whole know-how that they have is staying with us, is in our company, and we don't need to invest our time, our money to the onboarding processes, to that knowledge transfer, and for any other things that are related to the new person in the team. And that's why we will have more of benefits. So if we are considering the transfer to the Kotlin, then I encourage you to do this. You can, of course, use some courses of Udemy. You can use some courses of Pluralsight, for example. You can even download our codebook written by one of our developers. A small advert here. I don't have QR code, sorry. I have on a link. And yeah, this is the very good cookbook for beginning. It's totally for free, so I encourage you to do this. And yeah, this brings me to the end of almost the end of my presentation. And I would like to leave you today with the three bullet points that combined together can bring you a lot of savings, a lot of benefits. So if you consider that transition to Kotlin will give you faster delivery time, so we will be your time to market will be better. You will have the opportunity to write the code once through the different platform by using a multi-platform tool, and that it makes your people more happier. Then their work and your work will be more efficient. It will be speeded up, and it will have more quality, which could also bring you cost savings. And yeah, this is answering us for the why questions from the very beginning of the application. And answering for the what for question is even simpler. That we should do this because our life is good, but it always can be better. Yeah, and saying this, this is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominik. Thank you, guys. So now we're coming to the end. And
Thank you, Rafał.
thanks again for participating. And the plan is as follows. Those who you did not pick the goodies bags, so basically we have a gift that we brought for you, please feel free to take them. They're to be collected with the lady in blue, Agata. And now the pleasant part starting, because you're going to have warm food outside, it's a buffet. There are drinks in the fridge, so feel free to treat you to all of them. And of course networking. And if you want to approach any of the speakers, you got any questions, now is the time. Any questions now? So I assume that the plan is clear and the next steps, yeah. So thank you again. The round of applause for everybody, both participating and listening. And that's it. And for those of you who skipped the beginning, we're planning another edition of our meetup on June 19th. The agenda unknown, the place unknown, but the date is set. So I'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Thank you.